All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're breaking down Michael Porter's famous value chain framework to see exactly how a true competitive advantage is built. We're going to look at the anatomy of a business, tear it right down to the studs, and figure out where value is actually generated. And spoiler alert, it is not just in the factory, and it's definitely not just in the marketing department.
To kick things off, I want you to think about a really simple question. What happens after the customer buys your product? We've got to completely challenge the traditional assumption that a business transaction just ends at the point of sale. Because honestly, if you think the cash register ringing is the finish line, you are leaving an enormous amount of competitive advantage and profit margin on the table.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll hit 1. Decoding the value chain. 2. Primary versus support activities. 3. The core primary activities. 4. A deep dive into service. And 5. Creating competitive advantage.
Starting with number 1, decoding the value chain and understanding value creation.
Michael Porter designed this framework to view a firm not just as some static company or random collection of departments, but as a continuous dynamic chain of value-creating activities. Basically, every business is a collection of actions taken to produce, market, deliver, and support its product. The whole point of this linked chain is to ultimately create value for buyers. And when the value you create exceeds the cost of performing all these activities, well, that's where you get your profit margin.
If we map this out spatially, it is a brilliant roadmap. Every single business function, from logistics to operations to HR, has to funnel directly into creating that final margin. Michael Porter intended us to view operations horizontally like this. Every business function has to justify its existence by contributing to that ultimate goal of profit and value.
Moving on to part 2, primary versus support activities, the doers and the enablers. So, we have to draw a hard line here to contrast these two groups. On one side, we've got the primary activities. These are your direct doers. They're the ones physically creating, selling, delivering, and supporting the product. On the other side, we have the support activities. These are the enablers. They don't touch the final product directly, but they enhance and facilitate the primary functions so everything can run smoothly.
Let's look at those support activities really quickly. We're talking about procurement, tech development, human resource management, and firm infrastructure, which is stuff like accounting and strategic planning. Now, don't get me wrong, these are absolutely vital. Without HR hiring great people, the whole thing falls apart. But their main role in this specific framework is strictly to make the doers, those primary activities, way more efficient.
Section 3, the core primary activities. This is the sequential journey.
Let's walk through these steps chronologically. First up, inbound logistics, which is receiving and storing raw materials. Second is operations, actually transforming those inputs into the final product. Third, outbound logistics, physically distributing the finished goods. And fourth, marketing and sales, which covers the promotion and pricing that actually gets buyers to pull the trigger.
Now, what's really fascinating is how the heavy lifting shifts depending on your industry. Take a hotel operator like Starwood. They live and die by daily operations, right? Check-in, room maintenance, housekeeping. But an e-commerce giant like Amazon, their competitive advantage thrives on insanely efficient inbound and outbound logistics. The chain looks different for everyone, but the core categories remain exactly the same.
And all of these sequential steps funnel right into one ultimate goal: maximizing value and minimizing waste at each of those primary steps. Whether that's cutting warehousing costs or optimizing an assembly line is exactly what builds that all-important margin at the very end of the chain.
But hold on a second. Look at the sequence we just covered. We ended at marketing and sales. It is a super common mistake to assume the value chain process just stops once the sales team closes the deal and the product ships. But actually, the sequence has one final, absolutely crucial step that often dictates long-term survival. Which brings us to Section 4, a deep dive into service, the culminating primary activity.
We finally arrive at service. And this is exactly why it sits right alongside manufacturing and logistics in the primary category, rather than being shoved over into a support role like IT. Service encompasses everything from installation and repair to spare parts delivery, technical assistance, and handling complaints. These actions prove that a company is still actively creating physical value for the buyer long after the initial purchase is done.
Service is the final touch point. It's perfectly positioned right next to the margin itself. It is literally the last line of defense for your value proposition.
If an organization performs this function better or more efficiently than their competitors, they add immense value and directly widen that profit margin.
Want to put a real-world number on this? Try 460%. During the pandemic, Walmart leaned heavily into its primary activities to adapt. Yes, they focused on logistics, but specifically, they prioritized safe customer service protocols to meet unprecedented needs. By ensuring safe, reliable service environments, they saw a massive 460% growth in daily grocery app downloads by April 2020 compared to just months prior. That is after-sales service driving massive competitive value.
Finally, Section 5, creating competitive advantage well beyond just product features.
So how does mastering this whole chain, and especially that culminating step of service, actually build a lasting edge over your rivals? Well, by evaluating every single step, managers can pinpoint exactly where their strengths and weaknesses are. This usually leads to three things: cost cutting through better efficiency, product differentiation by really investing in design and after-sales supports, or entirely reconfiguring the chain to offer a unique value proposition that literally nobody else in the market has.
There's a quote from our sources that just hits the nail on the head. Differentiation is not simply about offering different product features. It is about identifying and understanding every possible interaction between the firm and its customers. This is huge. Differentiation isn't just some marketing gimmick. Locking in customer loyalty requires incredible interactions at every single touchpoint across those primary activities, and nowhere's that tested more than in the after-sales service.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to take a hard look at your own operations. Think about your value chain. Are you treating service like an afterthought, just some cost center to deal with unhappy buyers? Or are you treating it the way Porter intended, as a primary, culminating activity and the ultimate driver of your profit margin? Thanks for joining me today, and I hope this deep dive gave you a powerful new lens for your competitive strategy.